The day you take full responsibility for your life is the day everything changes. I know it sounds simple, but when you truly understand what that means, it's like unlocking the door to everything you've ever wanted. The moment I realized that my life didn't just happen to me, but I had control over it, everything shifted. It wasn't some grand moment of success or a lucky break. It was the realization that if I didn't take charge, nothing would ever change. And that's the day I began to transform. Now, I want to share that moment with you because I know, deep down, that you've been wondering what it takes to finally get the results you want. The truth is, it's not about waiting for the perfect time or the right opportunity. It's about making a decision to act. It's about deciding that today is the day you stop letting life happen to you and start making life happen for you. In this video, I'll walk you through the moment that completely changed my perspective, and I promise you, by the end, you'll understand exactly how you can take control of your own journey. If you've ever felt stuck, uncertain, or like you just need a spark to ignite change, stay with me. Because I'm about to share the one thing that can make all the difference in your life. Number one, I lost, I failed, and that's when I truly began. The day that changed my life wasn't the day I won. It wasn't the day I finally made it. No, the day that truly changed my life was the day I lost. The day I failed so hard that I almost gave up. But looking back, that was the moment everything really began. That was the moment I realized something that most people never understand. Failure is not the end. It's the beginning. I wasn't always the man standing here today. There was a time when I was struggling, lost, uncertain of my future. I had dreams, yes, I had ambitions. But no matter how hard I tried, it seemed like nothing worked. Every plan I had fell apart. Every opportunity slipped through my fingers. And after so many failures, I started questioning myself. Maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe success wasn't meant for me. Maybe all the people who doubted me were right. And let me tell you, that's a dangerous place to be. When you start believing your doubts, you stop believing in yourself. And when you stop believing in yourself, you start settling for a life that is far below what you're capable of. You accept less. You stop trying. And that's where most people give up. That's where most people stay stuck for years, even decades, because they think failure is proof that they're not capable. But let me tell you something. That day when I felt like I had lost everything, I had a realization that changed my life forever. I realized that failure is not the opposite of success, it is part of success. I had been looking at it all wrong. I thought failure meant I wasn't meant to win. But the truth is, failure was the training ground. It was the preparation I needed to become the person I had to be in order to succeed. You see, life has a way of testing you before it rewards you. It will push you, challenge you, knock you down again and again, just to see if you have what it takes to get back up. And I'll be honest with you, it hurts. It's painful to fail. It's painful to try and fall short. But what I didn't realize back then is that every failure was making me stronger. Every time I lost, I learned. Every time I failed, I grew. And let me tell you, the moment you understand this, you take them, instead of getting discouraged when things don't work out, you dig deeper, and that's when success starts to happen. But here's the thing. Most people don't want to hear this. Most people want to believe in luck. They want to believe that success happens overnight. They want to believe that some people are just born winners, and others are destined to struggle. But let me tell you the truth. The only difference between the people who make it and the people who don't is who keeps going when things get tough. I remember that day clearly, sitting alone, feeling like a failure. I had two choices. I could give up and accept that maybe this was just my life, or I could make a decision that no matter how many times I failed, I would not stop. No matter how many times life knocked me down, I would get back up. No matter how long it took, I would keep pushing forward until I made it. That single decision changed everything, because from that moment on, failure didn't scare me anymore. It didn't break me. It built me. I stopped waiting for the right time. I stopped making excuses. I stopped blaming circumstances, my past, other people. And I took full responsibility for my life. I told myself, if I want things to change, I have to change. If I want a better life, I have to become better. And let me tell you, when you make that kind of commitment to yourself, things start to shift. Not overnight, not instantly, but little by little, day by day, you start to see progress. And that progress builds confidence. And that confidence builds momentum. And before you know it, you're not the same person anymore. So let me ask you, what are you going to do? Are you going to let failure define you, or are you going to let it shape you? Are you going to give up because things are hard, or are you going to push forward, knowing that every failure is just another step towards success? Because here's the truth. The people who win in life are not the smartest. They are not the luckiest. They are not the most talented. They are simply the ones who refuse to quit. The ones who get knocked down 7 times but stand up 8. The ones who don't let temporary failure turn into permanent defeat. So if you've been struggling, if you've been failing, if you feel like nothing is working, congratulations. That means you're in the process. That means you're being shaped into the person you need to become. That means you're on the right track. But what you do next is what matters. Are you going to stay down, or are you going to rise? Because the day that changed my life wasn't the day I won. It was the day I decided that losing wasn't the end, it was the beginning. And that same decision is available to you right now. Number 2, the power of saying no and how it changed my life. The moment I realized the power of saying no, everything in my life changed. Not slowly, not over time, but instantly. It was like flipping a switch, because for years I had been stuck in routines I didn't like, stuck in commitments that drained me, stuck in a cycle of pleasing everyone but myself. I didn't know it at the time, but the reason I felt lost, the reason I wasn't making progress, the reason I was exhausted all the time wasn't because I was incapable. It wasn't because I didn't have opportunities. It was because I had never learned to say no. I used to be the kind of person who said yes to everything. Can you help me with this? Yes. Can you come to this event? Yes. Can you take care of this for me? Yes. And on the surface, it seemed like the right thing to do. I wanted to be dependable. I wanted to be liked. I wanted to be the kind of person people could count on. But what I didn't see, what took me years to understand, was that every time I said yes to something I didn't truly want, I was saying no to myself, no to my time, no to my priorities, no to my own success. And here's what happens when you live like that. You wake up one day exhausted, frustrated, and wondering why, despite doing so much, you feel like you've accomplished nothing. You wonder why your dreams are still out of reach. You wonder why you're always running but never arriving. And then, if you're lucky, you finally see the truth. I wasn't stuck because I was unlucky. I wasn't stuck because I wasn't working hard enough. I was stuck because I was spending my time on things that weren't meant for me. The first time I said no, it wasn't easy. Someone asked me for something I normally would have agreed to without thinking, and I paused. I felt the guilt creeping in. I felt the fear. What if they get upset? What if they think I'm selfish? But I pushed through and said it, no, I can't. And in that moment, something changed. The world didn't end. The person moved on, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years, relief. Because for the first time, I had chosen myself. Saying no wasn't about rejecting people. It wasn't about being rude. It was about respect. Respect for my time, respect for my energy, respect for the future I was building. And the more I did it, the more I realized something incredible. The more I said no to the things that didn't serve me, the more room I had to say yes to the things that did. I started saying no to distractions, and suddenly I had time to focus on what actually mattered. I started saying no to negative people, and suddenly I had space for relationships that lifted me up instead of drained me. I started saying no to things that weren't aligned with my goals, and suddenly I was making progress like never before. People think success is about working harder, about doing more. And yes, hard work matters. Yes, effort is important. But if you're putting all that effort into the wrong things, it doesn't matter how hard you work. You'll always feel stuck. You'll always feel frustrated. You'll always feel like you're chasing something you can never catch. Because success isn't just about what you do. It's also about what you refuse to do. Most people don't struggle because they don't have enough time. Most people struggle because they waste time on things that don't matter. They get pulled into obligations that don't serve them. They say yes out of guilt. They say yes out of fear. They say yes because they think they have to. But let me tell you, your time is the most valuable thing you have. Once you spend it, you can't get it back. And if you don't protect it, other people will use it however they want. The moment you start saying no to what doesn't serve you, your life begins to change. You start moving forward instead of in circles. You start feeling in control instead of overwhelmed. You start making real progress instead of just staying busy. And the best part, you start to realize that the only person who ever needed to give you permission to focus on yourself was you. And that's when everything changes. Number 3, I learned that discipline beats motivation every time. Discipline changed my life, not motivation, not inspiration, discipline. Because motivation is like a spark. It lights up for a moment, but then it fades. It gets you excited for a day, maybe a week, but eventually it disappears. And that's the problem. Most people rely on motivation to change their lives. They wait until they feel inspired. They wait until they feel ready. They wait for that perfect moment. And that's why they never move forward. That's why they start and stop over and over again. Because motivation comes and goes. But discipline stays. I used to be one of those people. I would get excited about a new goal, a new plan, a new vision for my life. And for the first few days, I was all in, waking up early, putting in the work, making progress. But then something would happen. I'd wake up one morning and that excitement was gone. I didn't feel like doing it. I didn't feel that same rush of energy. And so I'd tell myself, maybe tomorrow. And then tomorrow would come. And the excuse would be even stronger. Before I knew it, I was back to where I started, waiting for the next wave of motivation to hit me. And then one day I had a realization that changed everything. I looked around at the people who were truly successful, not the ones who had short bursts of progress, but the ones who were consistent, the ones who built something real, the ones who kept growing year after year. And I noticed something. They weren't relying on motivation. They weren't waiting to feel inspired. They were disciplined. They had routines. They had habits. They had a way of showing up every single day, whether they felt like it or not. That's when I knew what I had to do. I had to stop chasing motivation. I had to stop waiting for that feeling of excitement. Instead, I had to build discipline. I had to train myself to take action no matter how I felt. And let me tell you, that was not easy, because everything inside me wanted to take the easy way out. Everything inside me wanted to sleep in, to skip the hard work, to put things off for another day. But I made a decision that no matter what, I would show up. No matter what, I would put in the work. No matter what, I would stick to my commitments. At first, it was tough waking up early when I wanted to sleep in, going to the gym when I didn't feel like it, studying when I was tired. But something amazing happened. The more I did it, the easier it got. The more I pushed through, the more natural it became. And before I knew it, I wasn't thinking about whether I was motivated or not. I wasn't debating with myself every morning. I wasn't negotiating with my excuses. I was just doing it. Because that's what discipline does. It takes away the need for motivation. It makes action automatic. And that's when my life started to change. Because while everyone else was waiting for the right mood, the right time, the right inspiration, I was moving forward. While everyone else was stuck in the cycle of starting and stopping, I was making real progress. And it wasn't because I had more talent. It wasn't because I was luckier. It wasn't because I had more opportunities. It was because I had built discipline. And discipline beats motivation every single time. You see, motivation is great. It's exciting. It feels good, but it's not reliable. You can't build your future on something that comes and goes. You can't reach your goals by only working when you feel like it. If you want to change your life, if you want to reach that next level, you have to make a decision. You have to decide that no matter how you feel, no matter what's happening around you, no matter how tough it gets, you will show up. You will do the work, you will stay committed. And here's the best part. The moment you embrace discipline, you stop needing motivation. Because when you do something every day, it becomes a part of who you are. You no longer have to fight with yourself. You no longer have to wait for the right mood. You just do it. And that's how real progress happens. That's how success is built. Not by waiting, not by hoping, but by showing up every single day, no matter what. And once you understand that, once you start living it, everything changes. Number 4, I stopped hoping for luck and started creating my own opportunities. There was a time in my life when I believed in luck. I thought success was something that happened to certain people. The ones who were in the right place at the right time, the ones who had the right connections, the ones who were just lucky. I would see people getting ahead, making progress, building their dream lives, and I would wonder, why not me? I would wait, hoping that one day something would change. Maybe I'd meet the right person. Maybe I'd stumble into the right opportunity. Maybe, if I was patient enough, luck would finally find me. But it never did. And that's when I had to face a hard truth. Luck wasn't coming to save me. No one was going to hand me the life I wanted. I could wait for years. I could hope. I could pray. But unless I took action, nothing was going to change. And that realization hit me like a brick, because I had wasted so much time sitting on the sidelines, waiting for my turn. I had watched other people build their success while I kept waiting for something to happen to me. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to wait anymore. I wasn't going to sit around hoping for things to fall into place. Instead, I was going to create my own opportunities. I was going to take control. And let me tell you, that shift in thinking changed everything. Because the moment I stopped relying on luck, I started relying on myself. And that's when things finally started to move. At first, it wasn't easy. Because for years, I had convinced myself that I needed permission. I thought I needed someone to open a door for me. But that was just an excuse. The truth was, I had the ability to create my own doors. I just had to stop waiting and start doing. So I did. I stopped hoping for a lucky break and I started working on my skills. I stopped waiting for someone to give me a chance and I started looking for ways to add value. I stopped dreaming about success and I started taking small steps toward it every single day. And something incredible happened. The more action I took, the more opportunities started to appear. Not because of luck, but because I was putting myself in a position to receive them. People started noticing my efforts. Doors that seemed closed before suddenly started opening. Not because someone handed them to me, but because I had done the work to earn it. That's the secret most people don't understand. It's not about luck. It's about positioning yourself for success. It's about creating so much value that people can't ignore you. It's about being ready so that when an opportunity does come, you don't miss it. Because here's the truth. Luck is just preparation meeting opportunity. It's not random. It's not magic. It's the result of consistent effort day after day. And when you understand that, everything changes. You stop looking at successful people and thinking they're just lucky. Instead, you start asking, what did they do to get there? You stop feeling like the world is against you, and you start realizing that you have the power to shape your own future. Because if you put in the work, if you develop your skills, if you stay consistent, opportunities will come. They always do. But you have to be ready. You have to be willing to do the work before you see the results. You have to stop hoping for a shortcut and start building something real. And if you do that, if you commit to growth, if you show up every day, you won't need luck, because you will have created your own success. And that's worth more than any lucky break ever could be. Number 5, the hardest truth I ever faced and why it set me free. There comes a moment in life when you have to face something so painful, so uncomfortable, that it shakes you to your core. It's not the kind of truth you can ignore. It's the kind that forces you to stop and ask yourself, is this really who I want to be? For the longest time, I avoided that moment. I convinced myself that things would change on their own, that life would eventually reward me for my patience, that one day everything would finally fall into place. But it never did. And that's when I had to face the hardest truth of my life. No one was coming to save me. For years, I believed that if I just worked hard enough, if I stayed patient, if I kept doing what I was told, success would find me. I thought the world had a plan, that everything would align if I just waited long enough. But the truth was, I was waiting for something that was never going to happen. No one was going to hand me a better life. No one was going to come along and fix my problems. No one was going to push me to become the person I needed to be. It was all on me. And let me tell you, realizing that was both terrifying and liberating at the same time. At first, it felt like a betrayal, because we grow up believing that if we follow the rules, if we do what's expected of us, things will work out. We expect support, we expect guidance, we expect someone to show us the way, but then reality hits. You look around and realize that no one is going to fight for your dreams the way you need to. No one is going to wake up in the morning and make sure you stay disciplined. No one is going to sit you down and say, hey, it's time to change your life. That's your job. And if you don't take it seriously, you'll spend your whole life waiting for something that will never come. When that truth hit me, I felt lost, because for the first time I realized how much time I had wasted. I had spent years waiting for permission, waiting for the right circumstances, waiting for someone to recognize my potential. And all that waiting did was keep me stuck. I wasn't moving forward. I wasn't growing. I wasn't becoming anything more than what I already was. And that was the scariest part, realizing that if I didn't change something, my life was going to stay exactly the same. But here's why that truth set me free. The moment I accepted that no one was coming to save me, I took full responsibility for my life. And that's when things started to change. Because once you stop expecting the world to hand you opportunities, you start creating them yourself. Once you stop blaming others for where you are, you start looking for ways to move forward. Once you stop waiting for someone to push you, you learn to push yourself. And that is the greatest power you can have, the ability to take control of your own destiny. I started setting standards for myself. I stopped making excuses. I stopped looking for an easy way out. I stopped saying, maybe tomorrow. Because tomorrow turns into next week turns into next year, and before you know it, your whole life has passed by, and you're still standing in the same place. I refused to let that happen, so I got to work. I studied, I practiced, I failed, I got back up, and I kept going. And slowly I started to see progress. Not because someone handed it to me, but because I earned it. And let me tell you, there is no better feeling in the world than knowing that you built something with your own two hands. Most people never reach their full potential because they never accept this truth. They keep waiting. They keep hoping that something will change. But hope isn't a strategy. Hope isn't going to pay your bills. Hope isn't going to make you successful. What will? Action. Taking control, making decisions that move you forward, doing the hard things even when you don't feel like it. That's what changes lives. That's what separates the ones who succeed from the ones who spend their whole lives wondering what could have been. The day I faced that truth, I became free from the illusion that someone else was responsible for my success. Free from the idea that life owed me something. Free from the excuses that had held me back for so long. And once you experience that kind of freedom, you never go back. Because when you take full responsibility for your life, you realize just how much power you actually have. You are not a victim. You are not powerless. You are capable of more than you've ever imagined, but only if you're willing to take control. So if you're still waiting, if you're still hoping, if you're still expecting something to change on its own, stop, face the truth, accept it, and then use it to fuel you. Because the moment you do, you'll realize that everything you've ever wanted is within your reach, but only if you decide to go after it. Number 6, from comfort to growth. The day I embraced discomfort. There are days that define us, and I can tell you without a doubt that the day I embraced discomfort changed everything. I had always been someone who sought comfort. I'd been taught that comfort was a good thing, something that you worked hard to achieve. But what I learned along the way, and what I want to share with you today, is that true growth happens only when you step outside that comfort zone. It wasn't an easy realization. For years, I stayed in my safe little bubble. I avoided the difficult conversations, the tough decisions, and the challenges that required real effort. It felt good, right? But I was stuck. I wasn't going anywhere. And deep down, I knew it. I remember a moment sitting there thinking about how things just weren't changing. Sure, I had a steady routine, but that routine wasn't moving me toward the life I wanted. It wasn't moving me toward growth. It was simply making me comfortable. And as I looked around at people who were succeeding, pushing themselves beyond what seemed possible, I couldn't ignore it any longer. I wasn't growing. The turning point came when I realized something very important. The very thing I had been avoiding was the thing that I needed most. It wasn't comfort. It wasn't security. It was discomfort. It was challenge. It was pushing myself to the edge. where I was forced to find out what I was really made of. I remember the first time I consciously chose to step into discomfort. It wasn't easy. I was scared, unsure, and filled with doubt. I had no idea what was going to happen, but I did know one thing. I had to take that step. I had to stop letting fear keep me locked in a life that was familiar, but ultimately unfulfilling. So I did it. I stepped outside my comfort zone, and it was terrifying. Every part of me screamed to go back, to retreat to the safety of what I knew. But I kept going. And here's what happened. I learned that discomfort was not something to fear, but something to embrace. Discomfort pushed me to take action. It forced me to be creative, to find new solutions, to think bigger. It pushed me to grow in ways I never could have imagined. And let me tell you, growth doesn't happen without discomfort. It just doesn't. You can't expect to expand, to become the person you were meant to be, if you're constantly staying in the same place. You can't expect to achieve your dreams if you're always avoiding the very things that challenge you. You know, we all have a natural inclination to seek comfort. It's part of being human. We want things to be easy. We want things to feel good. But life isn't meant to be easy. It's meant to be a journey of growth, a journey that sometimes requires us to face the difficult things head on. The day I embraced discomfort, everything changed. I started to take risks. I started to make decisions that scared me. I started to say yes to opportunities that made me nervous. And guess what? That's when the magic started to happen. That's when things began to move forward. I started making progress. I started seeing results. And most importantly, I started feeling alive. Comfort is easy, but comfort doesn't make you better. Comfort doesn't make you stronger. Comfort doesn't make you more capable. In fact, comfort can actually make you weaker. It can keep you stuck. It can keep you in a place where you're just coasting along, never really challenging yourself or growing. Growth, on the other hand, is hard. It's uncomfortable. It forces you to stretch, to expand, to push yourself in ways that you never thought possible. But that's where the magic is. That's where the growth happens. The day I embraced discomfort, I made a commitment to myself. I committed to never again settling for comfort over growth. I decided that every time I felt that uneasy feeling in my stomach, that feeling of fear and uncertainty, I would lean into it. I would use it as a signal that I was about to grow. I would remind myself that growth is never easy, but it is always worth it. Since that day, I've faced countless challenges, big and small. And every time, I've had to remind myself that discomfort is the key to unlocking my potential. Every time, I've had to push past that initial resistance, that urge to turn back and keep moving forward. And you know what? It's never gotten easier, but it's always been worth it. Every step outside my comfort zone has led to new opportunities, new experiences, and new levels of growth. I've learned that discomfort isn't something to be feared. It's something to be embraced. It's the sign that you're on the right track, that you're heading towards something better, something bigger, something more. So if you're watching this and you're stuck in a rut, if you feel like you're not moving forward, ask yourself, are you too comfortable? Are you avoiding the challenges that could help you grow? Are you staying in the safe zone because it feels good, but deep down, you know it's not getting you closer to your goals? If the answer is yes, it's time to make a change. It's time to step outside your comfort zone. It's time to embrace the discomfort that comes with growth. I'm telling you right now that it's the best decision you'll ever make. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to know exactly how things will turn out. But you do have to take that first step. You do have to push yourself to do the things that scare you. You have to embrace the discomfort and use it as fuel for your growth, because here's the truth. You're capable of so much more than you think. You are capable of achieving things that seem impossible, of becoming the person you've always wanted to be. But you won't get there by staying comfortable. You'll get there by stepping into the unknown, by facing the challenges head on, and by embracing the discomfort that comes with real growth. The day I embraced discomfort was the day I truly started living. It was the day I stopped playing it safe and started playing to win. And I promise you, if you do the same, your life will change in ways you can't even imagine. So take that step, embrace the discomfort, and get ready to grow in ways that will blow your mind. The journey might be tough, but it will be the most rewarding journey of your life. Number 7, the day I stopped comparing myself to others. There comes a time in life when you reach a point where you have to stop looking around at what everyone else is doing and start focusing on your own journey. For so long, I was caught in the trap of comparing myself to others. It felt like I was constantly measuring my progress against theirs, and I couldn't help but feel like I was falling short. I know I'm not the only one who's felt that way. We all do it. We scroll through social media, see someone's success, their happiness, their accomplishments, and we begin to wonder why we aren't where they are. We start to doubt ourselves, thinking that we're not enough. But let me tell you, the day I stopped comparing myself to others was the day my life truly began to change. For years, I was trapped in this cycle. I'd see someone with more money, more friends, a bigger house, and I'd ask myself, why can't I have that? I'd look at their success and think, what am I doing wrong? Why am I not achieving what they're achieving? I thought their accomplishments meant that I was falling behind. I thought that somehow their success made mine less valuable. But let me tell you, that kind of thinking gets you nowhere. The truth is, comparing yourself to others only steals your joy, your confidence, and your peace of mind. It's a trap, and I was stuck in it for far too long. The day I stopped comparing myself to others was the day I took back control of my life. It wasn't some grand revelation that hit me all at once. It was a process, a slow realization that I had to change the way I was thinking. I had to start focusing on my own path, my own journey, and my own goals. Because the truth is, no one else is living your life. No one else has the same experiences, the same challenges, or the same potential. Their journey is theirs, and yours is yours. When you spend all your time looking at what others are doing, you're wasting precious energy that could be spent on improving yourself, moving closer to your own goals. I remember one day feeling frustrated after scrolling through social media. I had just seen someone post about their latest success, and I couldn't shake the feeling of inadequacy that crept in. It was like a voice in my head kept telling me, you should be doing that too. Why aren't you as successful as they are? But then I stopped myself. I realized that this constant comparison was not helping me. It wasn't getting me any closer to where I wanted to be. In fact, it was doing the opposite. It was holding me back. The more I compared myself to others, the more I diminished my own self-worth. That day, I decided that I had to stop comparing myself to others and start focusing on my own life. I knew that everyone had their own journey and that everyone faced their own challenges. Just because someone was ahead in one area didn't mean they had it all figured out. It didn't mean that their life was better than mine. It just meant that they were on a different path. And that was okay. I realized that there was no need to compete with anyone but myself. The only person I needed to compare myself to was the person I was yesterday. I began to take my energy and focus off of other people's lives and started putting it into my own. I set my own goals, and I focused on taking small steps toward them every single day. It wasn't about being better than anyone else. It was about becoming the best version of myself. And here's what I found. When I stopped comparing myself to others, I found freedom. I found peace. I found the ability to celebrate my own progress, no matter how small it seemed. I started to realize that the only thing that mattered was my own growth, my own journey, and my own happiness. One of the biggest things I had to accept was that everyone moves at their own pace. Some people will achieve things faster than you, while others might take longer. But that's okay. It doesn't mean that one path is better than the other. It just means that people are on different timelines, and you are exactly where you need to be. There's no rush. There's no need to compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. The only competition that matters is the one with yourself. The only thing you should be focused on is getting better than you were yesterday. You see, comparison will never make you happy. It will never bring you fulfillment. It will only keep you stuck in a cycle of doubt and insecurity. And the longer you stay in that cycle, the longer it will take for you to see how truly amazing you are. The more you compare, the more you diminish your own value. But when you shift your focus to your own progress, everything changes. You start to see how far you've come. you start to appreciate the steps you've taken, no matter how small. You start to recognize the growth that's already happening within you, and you realize that you are enough just as you are. Since I stopped comparing myself to others, I've experienced a shift in my mindset. I'm no longer consumed by what other people are doing. I've learned to embrace my own journey, to be patient with myself, and to trust the process. And let me tell you, that mindset shift has made all the difference. It has opened up new opportunities, new perspectives, and a new sense of freedom in my life. I'm no longer held back by the fear of not being enough. I know that I am on my own path, and that path is exactly where I'm meant to be. If you're struggling with comparison, I want you to know that you're not alone. It's something we all face at some point, especially in today's world where we're constantly bombarded with other people's highlight reels. But the truth is, you are enough. Your journey is valid. Your progress is real. And the only person you need to measure yourself against is the person you were yesterday. Celebrate your wins, no matter how small they seem. Be proud of the steps you're taking, even if they don't look like someone else's. Because at the end of the day, you're writing your own story, and that's what matters most. So stop comparing yourself to others. Stop measuring your worth based on someone else's success. Your path is yours, and it's just as important as anyone else's. Keep moving forward, and keep focusing on becoming the best version of yourself. Because when you do that, you'll find that your own journey is more than enough. Number 8, the day I realized that time is my most valuable asset. There's a moment in life when you come to a realization so powerful, so transformative, that it completely changes the way you look at everything. For me, that moment came when I realized that time is my most valuable asset. It's not money, it's not success, it's not even relationships. Time is the one thing we can never get back, and it's the one thing we tend to take for granted until it's too late. The day I truly understood this, my entire perspective on life, and it felt like I had unlocked a whole new level of personal growth. For a long time, I didn't fully grasp how valuable time was. Like many people, I thought I had all the time in the world. I'd procrastinate, put things off, and waste hours on things that didn't matter. I believed that I could always catch up, that tomorrow was another chance to do better. But as the years passed, I began to see how fleeting time really is. I started to realize that every day I wasted was a day I would never get back. And that realization hit me hard. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I had been careless with my most precious resource, and it was time to change that. The turning point came one day when I looked back at the past few years of my life. I saw missed opportunities, projects left unfinished, goals I had set but never fully pursued. I had spent so much time focusing on things that didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. I had spent time on things that didn't bring me closer to my goals, and I had allowed distractions to pull me away from what was truly important. And the worst part, I had allowed myself to think that I had more time to fix everything. That was when I realized how much of my life had been wasted. I understood that time wasn't something to be taken for granted, and it wasn't something I could afford to waste any longer. I knew that if I wanted to make something of myself, if I wanted to achieve my goals and live the life I dreamed of, I had to stop letting time slip away. I had to start using every moment wisely. It wasn't an easy change to make. We live in a world full of distractions. Social media, entertainment, endless to-do lists, and a constant pull on our attention. It's so easy to let time pass without even realizing it. But the truth is, every minute counts. Every day is an opportunity, and once that day is gone, it's gone forever. The more I thought about this, the more urgent it became to make every moment matter. One of the most eye-opening realizations for me was understanding that time isn't something we can store up for later. You can't bank time. You can't put it in a savings account for a rainy day. You only get this moment, this second, this minute. And once it's gone, it's gone. That realization made me rethink how I was spending my time. And it made me incredibly intentional about what I chose to focus on. I started asking myself tough questions. How was I spending my time? Was I using it in ways that aligned with my goals and values? Was I spending it on things that brought me closer to the life I wanted to live? Or was I just filling my days with distractions? The more honest I was with myself, the more I saw how much time I had wasted and how much time I could still make the most of if I acted now. The key to valuing time is understanding that it's not just about being busy. It's not about filling your day with tasks to make it feel productive. It's about making the right choices. It's about aligning your actions with your purpose. I realized that being busy wasn't enough. I needed to be intentional. I needed to focus on what truly mattered and stop allowing myself to get sidetracked by things that didn't serve my bigger vision. The day I realized time was my most valuable asset was the day I stopped procrastinating. I stopped waiting for the perfect time to start working on my dreams because I understood there was no such thing as the perfect time. The perfect time is now. The only time I have is today. If I kept waiting for the right moment, I would never move forward. I had to start taking action right now, no matter how small the steps seemed. Time became the lens through which I viewed every decision I made. I started asking myself, will this action bring me closer to my goals? If the answer was no, I stopped doing it. If the answer was yes, I made it a priority. I began eliminating things that drained my time and energy and focused on the things that truly mattered. I invested in relationships that added value to my life, and I poured my energy into projects that aligned with my long-term vision. It wasn't easy. There were days when I struggled to stay focused, days when I felt overwhelmed by everything I had to do, but I kept reminding myself that time was the most precious thing I had, and I couldn't afford to waste it. Every moment was an opportunity to move forward, and I wasn't going to let it slip away. Another powerful realization I had was understanding that time is something we can never get back. Money can be earned, success can be built, relationships can be nurtured, but time is irreplaceable. Once it's gone, it's gone. I knew I had to make every day count. I had to spend my time doing things that truly mattered, things that would move me closer to the life I wanted to create. And I had to be okay with saying no to things that didn't fit into that vision. One of the most impactful things I did after realizing the value of time was to start planning my days more intentionally. I began scheduling my time with purpose, setting clear goals and working in focused blocks of time. I stopped multitasking and started giving my full attention to the task at hand. I found that when I gave my best effort to one thing at a time, I was far more productive and fulfilled. The day I realized that time was my most valuable asset also helped me understand that time is a gift. It's not something we should take for granted. Each day we're alive is a precious opportunity to grow, to learn, and to make a difference. Time is a gift that we often squander, but when we start treating it with the respect it deserves, everything changes. We begin to see the value in each moment. We begin to appreciate how much we can accomplish when we use our time wisely. So, if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: time is the most valuable asset you have. It's not something you can buy more of, and it's not something you can get back once it's gone. So use it wisely. Be intentional with your time. Make every moment count. Stop waiting for the perfect time, because the perfect time is now. The more you value your time, the more you'll see just how much you can accomplish. The more you value the more you'll realize that you have everything you need to create the life you want. Time is a gift, and once you realize that, your life will never be the same again. Number 9, finally understood that knowledge without action is useless. There's something that many of us miss when we talk about success, growth, and achieving our dreams. It's something that for a long time, I didn't understand. I thought that if I just gathered enough knowledge, if I just learned the right strategies or read the right books, the results would come. I had all this information in my head, but I wasn't seeing any real progress in my life. I thought knowledge alone was the key to unlocking everything I wanted. But here's the truth I discovered. Knowledge without action is useless. It took me some time to realize that learning without doing doesn't lead to results. It leads to frustration, regret, and wasted potential. For years, I found myself consuming information. I'd listen to podcasts, attend seminars, and read books. I thought that by filling my mind with the best advice, the best strategies, and the most powerful principles, I would eventually get to the place I wanted to be. But even though I was absorbing all this knowledge, nothing was changing my life, wasn't improving the way I expected it to. I was stuck, and I couldn't figure out why. The more I looked around, the more I realized I wasn't alone. Many people have a tendency to think that simply knowing something is enough. They get excited about learning something new, but then they stop at the point of knowledge. They don't take it further. They don't apply it. It's like having the map to your destination, but never actually getting in the car to drive there. And that's where I had been. I was collecting maps, but never taking the journey. It wasn't until I truly understood this that things began to change for me. I had to accept that knowledge, no matter how powerful, means nothing unless it's put into action. The information is just the starting point. The real transformation happens when you apply what you know. The books, the seminars, the advice, they're all tools, but tools are useless without hands to use them. It was a tough pill to swallow, but once I understood this, my whole approach to life shifted. The first step in this shift was realizing that action is what moves the needle forward. No matter how many books I read or how many courses I took, I wasn't going to make progress unless I started doing something with the information I was gathering. I had been waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect conditions, the perfect circumstances to put my knowledge to work. But I learned that the perfect moment doesn't exist. The right time to act is always now. It's in the present, in the choices you make today. Waiting for things to align perfectly is just another form of procrastination. Once I accepted this truth, I took action, even when I wasn't sure what would happen. I stopped worrying about making mistakes. I stopped being paralyzed by the fear of failure. Instead, I embraced the idea that action, even imperfect action, was far more valuable than knowledge sitting idle in my head. I learned by doing, I grew by doing, and most importantly, I started to see results by doing. I also began to understand that action doesn't always have to be huge. It doesn't have to be a giant leap or a massive step. Small, consistent actions can lead to massive change over time. It's about showing up every day and doing something. It's about taking the next step, no matter how small, even if you're unsure of the outcome. The more I did, the more I learned, and the more I realized how powerful action really is. I learned that knowledge, by itself, can create a false sense of security. You can feel like you're doing something by learning, but you're not. It's easy to feel like you're making progress when you're reading books or listening to motivational speakers, but without taking the knowledge and applying it, it's just information floating around in your head. And the longer you wait to take action, the further you move away from the person you want to become and the life you want to create. The gap between where you are and where you want to be grows wider and wider, and all the knowledge in the world can't close that gap. One of the most important realizations I had during this process was understanding that action builds momentum. At first, it feels like you're pushing a boulder up a hill. It's hard and you don't see much progress, but as you keep going, as you continue to apply what you know, something incredible happens. You start to gain momentum. The boulder starts moving on its own. The work becomes easier. You become more confident. And most importantly, you start seeing results. I started making action a daily habit. It didn't matter if I didn't feel like it or if the circumstances weren't perfect. I began to make consistent progress, even if it was just a small step forward each day. I stopped overthinking, stopped second-guessing, and started putting one foot in front of the other. I learned that the more I acted, the more I understood. I learned more from taking action and making mistakes than I ever did from reading books or attending seminars. The real lessons came from experience, from putting myself out there, and from trying things I had never done before. The key here is not to wait until everything is perfect. Don't wait for the right moment. Don't wait for all the pieces to fall into place. You're never going to have all the answers, and the conditions will never be perfect. The most successful people aren't the ones who know the most. They're the ones who take the most action. They're the ones who show up day after day and put in the work. They're the ones who learn by doing, not by waiting. Once I understood this, I stopped hesitating. I stopped thinking about what might go wrong and started focusing on what I could do right now. I realized that the only way to make progress is to act, to do the work, to take the steps, even when it's uncomfortable. The sooner I took action, the sooner I learned, and the sooner I could course correct. And the results started to speak for themselves. If you're stuck in the cycle of learning without doing, it's time to break free. Don't let knowledge sit idle in your mind. Take that knowledge, turn it into action, and watch how your life transforms. The biggest mistake you can make is to think that learning alone is enough. It's not. Knowledge without action is useless. The action is where the magic happens. So get started. Take that first step, no matter how small. The momentum will build, the lessons will come, and before you know it, you'll be living the results of your actions, not just your knowledge. Number 10, I made a simple promise to myself and kept it. There's something incredibly powerful about making a promise to yourself and then following through. It's easy to make promises to others, to set goals, to declare that you're going to do something, but the most important promise you can ever make is the one you make to yourself. It's the promise that you will do what you say you'll do, no matter how tough it gets, no matter how much doubt tries to creep in, no matter how many setbacks come your way. The day I made a simple promise to myself was the day everything began to change. I wasn't making this promise to anyone else. I wasn't doing it to impress anyone, to get validation, or even for the recognition. It was something deeper than that. It was a commitment to myself, a declaration that no matter what happens, I will follow through. For the longest time, I struggled with the idea of setting goals and keeping promises. I'd start something with excitement, with passion, but then life would get in the way, distractions would creep up, and I'd find myself back at square one. It was frustrating, and honestly, it left me feeling defeated. I didn't understand why it was so hard to keep promises to myself. I thought I just lacked discipline, that something was wrong with me. But here's the truth. I eventually discovered the reason I wasn't following through wasn't because I lacked discipline. It was because I lacked a deep personal commitment. I wasn't taking my promises to myself seriously. I was too casual about my goals. And when I wasn't fully committed, I didn't give myself the chance to succeed. Then one day I made a simple promise that changed everything. I told myself that no matter what, I would commit to my goals. No excuses, no shortcuts, no giving up when things got tough. I would hold myself accountable every single day. It wasn't a grand, life-altering promise. It wasn't about moving mountains or achieving impossible feats. It was about the simple act of showing up and doing what I said I would do. This was the promise that started my transformation. I wasn't waiting for someone else to hold me accountable. I was going to do it for myself. And it felt empowering. It wasn't easy, though. It's easy to say, I'll do this, or I'll make a change. But when life hits you with challenges, when things don't go according to plan, when your motivation starts to fade, that's when you have to hold on to that promise. That's when you have to dig deep and remind yourself why you made it in the first place. The truth is, most people break promises to themselves because they allow the challenges of life to get in the way. They start to doubt themselves. They tell themselves that they're too tired, too busy, or that they don't have what it takes. But making a promise to yourself means choosing to rise above those excuses. It means saying, no matter what, I will keep going. The power of a promise is incredible, but only when you make it with full intention. The kind of promise that isn't just about what you want to achieve, but about the person you are becoming in the process. When I made that promise to myself, it wasn't just about hitting a goal. It was about becoming a person who could trust themselves, who could rely on their word. It was about building integrity, not just achieving success. That's the real power of keeping promises to yourself. It's not about the outcome. It's about who you become along the way. I can tell you this. It's not always going to be easy. There will be days when you don't feel like following through. You might be tired, distracted, or even just lacking in motivation. But this is where the magic happens. On those days when you're tired, when the motivation isn't there, when it feels like it would be so much easier to quit, that's when you have to push through. That's when you need to remind yourself that you made a promise and you owe it to yourself to keep it. It's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. It's about showing up day after day, no matter how small the progress may seem. Every step forward counts, even if it feels insignificant at the time. The key to keeping promises to yourself is remembering why you made them in the first place. When I made that simple promise, I wasn't just setting a goal for the sake of achieving it. I was doing it because I knew that when I followed through, I would be building a stronger version of myself. Every time I kept a promise, I was reinforcing my own belief in myself. I was building trust with myself, and that trust is priceless. When you follow through on your promises, you create a track record of success, and that track record becomes a foundation you can stand on. It becomes proof that you can do what you set out to do. And the more you keep your promises, the easier it becomes to make bigger promises and achieve bigger goals. But here's the thing. There will still be moments when you feel tempted to give up. Life will throw curveballs at you, and it will test your resolve. The trick is to recognize those moments for what they are. Tests of your commitment, tests of your character. And the beautiful part is that each time you pass those tests, you grow. You become more capable, more resilient, and more determined. You'll look back at those moments where you could have quit, but you didn't, and you'll realize just how much stronger you've become. I can tell you from experience that keeping promises to yourself doesn't just change your life. It transforms you. It makes you a person who doesn't need external validation or motivation. You become someone who knows that their word is enough, someone who trusts their own ability to get things done. And that trust is powerful. It's the kind of trust that drives you forward, even on the hardest days. So, I want you to think about the promises you've made to yourself. What have you been putting off? What goals have you started but never finished? What commitments have you made and then let go of? The good news is that it's never too late to start again. You don't need to wait for a new year or a special moment. The moment to make a promise to yourself is right now. And once you make that promise, keep it. Don't just say it, do it. Commit to the process, trust the journey, and most importantly, believe in yourself. Because when you make a promise to yourself and keep it, you're not just changing your circumstances, you're changing your life. As we wrap this up, remember this. The power to change your life is always in your hands. The day that changed everything for me wasn't about a magic moment. It was about realizing I was the one who had to take responsibility for my own future. It was a choice, a shift in mindset, and a decision to stop waiting for things to change and start making things happen. You don't need to wait for some big event or perfect situation. The best time to take control of your life is right now. It's about making a promise to yourself that you'll take action, no matter how small, and keep moving forward. Every step counts. Every decision matters. So if there's something in your life that needs to change, don't wait another day. Make the choice today and take that first step. Your future is in your hands, and it's waiting for you to step up and take control. Thank you for watching. Keep pushing forward. The best is yet to come.